美国大多数民调机构目前都显示哈里斯和川普的支持率是不相上下。不过呢，在关键摇摆州宾州的一个甜饼干民调中，2名候选人的差距却是达到了超过10倍。那么这个饼干民调是怎么回事呢？辛恬今天就给您带来这个实地采访的故事，其中呢也可以从美国 Z 时代年轻人亲口了解到为什么很多他的同龄人会倾向于社会主义，而从中醒悟过来的人呢，为什么会转变？好，在进入这个故事之前辛恬要先感谢观众朋友们对我的2024年美国大选摇摆州实地采访项目的大力赞助截止到我录这段节目的时间呢，也就是美东9月13号傍晚7点半已经有54位朋友慷慨捐助了5470元。那么距离6000元的目标只剩下不到600美元了。真的是 amazing 不可思议，让我和我的团队呢，真是非常感动，非常的受到鼓舞，非常感谢您。那其中有朋友捐10元的，也有捐2000元的，今天呢还有位朋友捐了500元。其实呢，不论多少大家的心意都是一样的珍贵让我们同样的珍惜。当然了，因为有几位特别给力的朋友，才使得我们在4天之内就达到了捐款目标的90%以上在此呢，辛恬代表我们的团队再次向大家表示感谢。如果还有心有能力捐助的朋友，在这1-2天内行动的话呢，我们就有希望在1周之内完成目标。那其实捐助的方法是非常方便只要点击描述栏里我的个人网页链接呢，就可以看到这个捐款项目了。您可以选择一次性的 one time， 也可以选择 monthly 的，金额呢可以选择已经设定好的，也可以输入任何您想要捐助的金额，然后就点击 next。下一步输入您的名字、邮箱，然后点击 next， 输入您的付款信息就可以了。但是如果没有能力捐款的话呢，不要紧可以像一位留言的朋友建议的您多多转发我的视频节目，让更多的人看到呢，就可能有更多的人来支持了。好的，那么我们来看看这个饼干民调，这是在宾州蒙哥马利县的一个烘焙店，叫 Locho's Bakery。到今天为止的统计是，川普饼干卖了超过5000个，哈里斯饼干呢则卖了500个。我在9月10号总统辩论会当天去了那个店里采访的时候呢，店主正好不在，他是在1个小时以外另一个店里，所以呢，我就通过电话跟他做了采访。店主凯瑟琳说对他来说只是做生意结果呢也不能完全说明问题。事实上呢，这其实是他第5次在大选年卖红蓝饼干了。前3次的饼干民调跟大选结果是完全相符。到了2020年呢，川普饼干比拜登饼干呢卖得多一些不过差距没有像今年那么大。拜登饼干是173个，川普饼干是290个。当然我们知道最后是拜登入主白宫了那么今年的饼干差距呢是特别大，能不能说明问题呢？请朋友们在这个节目的留言区留言您的看法是什么样的？那么凯瑟琳说今年呢有1/3的饼干是邮购寄到外州的，其他的呢宾州之内呢也有邮购，也有到实体店来买的。那么邮寄的在宾州的呢只有7包是蓝色饼干，其他的都是红色饼干。我在现场呢也采访了几位买饼干的顾客因为只碰到1家人买蓝色的，所以呢蓝色的就采访了1家。买红色饼干的呢采访了2位不过呢在这期节目中呢，我就先放其中一位年轻人的采访，因为呢他所说的一些信息尤其是关于美国年轻人的想法，相信很多朋友会感兴趣了解。这个烘焙店叫 Locho's Bakery， 是在宾州的 Hatboro 这个城市这2天呢它特别的红火，为什么呢？因为它在卖川普和哈里斯的 cookie。 就在我们刚刚拍的过程中间，半个小时的样子，这个2个篮子红色的川普 cookie 呢就卖完了，它刚刚又重新填满。我刚刚跟这个店主在电话里面通过话。
It's just for fun and for what people want to buy. So I do this for fun. It generates people to come into our store, and we have fun with it. So it's not scientific. So I can't rely on cookies to determine the president. I think maybe people might think that, but it's not.
到现在为止啊，黑板上写的川普的 cookie 哈是卖了4671个，然后哈里斯的呢369个。他还没有做最后的更新啊，就从我们来到这里大概不到1个小时里面呢，碰到6、7拨人吧，有一拨人一家人买了3块这个哈里斯的 cookie， 其他人都是买的这个川普的 cookie， 有的一买就是买30个，也有买2、3个。How many Harris cookie are you buying?
Buying 3. There's 3 of us in the family. I figure 1 for each of us. It'd be a good dessert tonight. I believe they're just sugar cookies, but hey, why not? It's actually a fun thing to do and a way to show your support.
You have make up your mind?
I have, yes. There's not much chance I would go the other way.
So what's the main reason?
I don't like the man. I'm a Republican, and there's no way I'd ever vote for him.
Before Harris took over the candidate seat, who were you planning to support?
Joe Biden, not because I particularly liked him, but there is no way I could ever cast a vote for Trump.
So before Trump, who did you vote for?
Before Trump, it was John McCain, it was George Bush, it was George Bush Sr. Every vote I ever cast was Republican.
Help our audience to understand. So you don't want to support Trump mainly because like his policy or because his personality?
His personality, and no matter what, you got to vote for the man, or in this case, the woman, and integrity first. And I don't trust his integrity.
In details, what's the integrity included?
Everything by not respecting the vote of the people. By the time he started his presidential campaign in 2020, he was already saying, I could only lose if there's cheating. That's just giving him a way out. He can never admit that he's wrong. He could never work with anyone else, in my opinion. And
so working with RFK Jr.
Well, I wouldn't have voted for him either, so that's no problem there. Politics makes strange bedfellows.
How do you feel about Trump's era comparing to these 3 years?
Actually, if you look at it, there's been no rioting in the past 3 years, aside from the Republicans, and they were an attempt to take over Congress. So it's been relatively peaceful. The economy is actually doing pretty well. Inflation's still a problem, but that was stoked by both the Trump and the Biden presidencies early on. So I can't hold that as just against him. It was recovering from COVID.
Inflation was like 1 or 2 points, right, when Trump's here?
It was, but we were also in a contractionary period during COVID. During that time period, he inherited low interest rates from Obama. They continued, especially when the economy was contracting. And as the economy took off in steam, yes, Congress on both sides of the aisle voted for more stimulus even as COVID was ending. It took up inflation. Unfortunately, raised interest rates. I would have liked to take some of the taxes back and paid off the deficit, but nobody wants to pay off the deficit these days.
You feel Harris's economy plan would work? Who's going to pay for it?
In all honesty, every resource I look at, neither one of their economic plans is really going to be that good for the deficit. And I think Harris's will be a little bit better for the deficit, and I don't like the idea of tariffs as far as a way to collect taxes, as Trump has proposed. I think that reflects back to the Smoot-Hawley Act of the Great Depression, and I don't think anyone wins in that process.
Do you live nearby?
Yeah, I'm in Lansdale. It was about a 25-minute drive.
Drive all the way just to buy the cookies?
Yes. I've heard a lot about this company on social media, on the news. I think it's really cool what they're doing. Not only, obviously, this is a way to support small businesses, but it's a way to get people involved with the election and, with the voting process. So I thought it was really cool. I had to come show my support. I got a whole bunch of cookies.
How many?
I purchased 30 Trump cookies.
Okay.
I purchased 30 of them. I am very vocal about my conservative values on social media. I actually held a fundraiser for this company last night. We raised about $150, so all of that money went towards buying the cookies to show support for the company.
You said you are very vocal about your conservative values. How Trump's value resonate with you?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm a member of Gen Z. I've experienced a lot of what's going on within the higher education system. I think that it's really gone downhill when it comes to professors shoving their views down our throats, and it comes to kind of some viewpoints being allowed on campuses compared to other viewpoints. So I feel like Trump is fighting for free speech. He wants everyone to be able to have a voice and have a say on campus, and I don't really see that from the other side. I feel like when it comes to liberal ideology or Democrats, they really only want to make sure that their voices are being heard, and they want to silence conservative voices. So that is going to make me align more with Trump than Kamala Harris.
So are you still in school? Or?
I recently graduated, but when I was in school, I went through a lot. A lot of my classmates found out that I was conservative online, and they actually started a petition to get me banned from my university, just because I was vocal about my conservative values. So that kind of was like the final straw for me, and now I'm in full support of President Trump. I think that he really does have a good shot, especially here in Pennsylvania. I've been doing a lot of voter registration efforts. I've registered a lot of voters, all Republican, all Gen Z, and we're all really excited to make sure that Trump does win in November.
For those the Gen Zs who still pretty, liberal, what do you think is the main reason for that?
I would say it's either that they're just following their parents blindly and that they don't do their own research, or that they are fooled by what's being spread out on social media and on the news. Personally, and I know many other people who think this, the news does favor Democrats more than Republicans. If you look at kind of the coverage, I think a recent report came out saying that the majority of coverage against Trump is negative and the majority coverage against Democrats is positive. So if you're a member of Gen Z like myself and you're just watching these news stations, you're going to believe what you are being told if you're not doing your own research. So I've done my own research. I used to lean a little bit liberal on some issues, but after doing my research, after talking with voters, talking with other members of the Pennsylvania community, I now understand that the Republican and conservative side of things is where I belong.
Is there a moment or one issue that really kind of clicked in your mind and make you, to change?
Yes, I would probably say the abortion issue. Back when I was in middle school, I wasn't too politically involved, but a lot of my classmates and a lot of those around me were definitely pro-choice. So that's just kind of what I upheld as a standpoint because that's all I saw. And then I started doing research into what abortions are all about. I started seeing people celebrate the fact that they're allowed to get abortions. I've seen videos on social media of people saying, this is my 5th abortion, my 6th abortion, and that to me was a little bit too much. So I started to shift over to the pro-life side of things where people are definitely a lot more humane about that issue and care about the value of human life. So I would say that the abortion issue is kind of what started my shift from liberal to conservative.
In the beginning, you mentioned how at school, the professors or teachers may be like shoveling those ideas. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yes, I had a specific class. It was a poetry class or like a short story class, and the only passages that we ever were told to analyze had to do something with the liberal value or had to do something with the Democrat Party. There was never anything that represented the other side. So that was one example. I also had a political class where our professor told us to call in to all of our state representatives and tell them to vote no on certain issues that she didn't like. So that obviously is her pressuring us to do something that she supports, whether we support it or not.
How old were you?
That was a couple years ago. I was probably around 20 at the time. I'm 23 now.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So did you vote the last election?
I did, yes. I voted for President Trump. Pennsylvania has been a really back and forth state. That's why, as someone who's politically involved, I really do enjoy living here. Just because when it comes to election season, like Pennsylvania really does have a lot of say in who will be the president. Like I said earlier, I've done a lot of voter registration efforts too. I spent a lot of my time going to football games, going to rallies, and making sure that everyone is registered to vote. And I think that we're making a lot of progress. We've flipped a couple counties so far this year. Bucks County used to be a Democrat-led county. Now it's a Republican-led county. Yes. So there's a lot of work from the Republican side of things being taken place in Pennsylvania.
Voter registration, is that your volunteer work or will you get paid?
Yes, volunteer work. Yep. It's just something that's really important to me. I'm really passionate about politics, and I really do think that this country is not going towards the right way. So I do want to make sure that I can do all in my power to make sure that Trump is reelected.
What's your job now?
I do serving part-time at a restaurant, and then I also do a lot of social media work, which is where I'm very vocal about my politics. I'm on like Instagram, TikTok, just doing like some hot take videos and some breaking news stories just to make sure that all my followers are informed about what's going on nationwide.
Oh, so you are actually an influencer.
Yes, yes.
You know, a lot of the young people, maybe including Gen Zs, I'm not sure, like are believing like maybe, you know, the sharing socialist view.
Oh, socialist, yes. I would also say that Gen Z is pretty lazy sometimes, and I don't think they have a full grasp on what socialism entails. So obviously if they're hearing free this, free that, they're going to want to sign up for that just because they aren't really as hard workers as I think my parents or grandparents were, and they do expect handouts sometimes. So I think that's why they would lean a little bit more socialist. And if the Democrat Party is promising, you know, handouts and government assistance and all of that, then I think they would gravitate more towards that side. I was raised to be a hard worker. My mom is definitely a little bit more conservative leaning. She always raised me to work for what I want. I wasn't just handed my first car. I wasn't handed my first phone. If I wanted that, my mom made me go out and get a job to be able to afford that. And I think that's why I lean more Republican, just because I do value hard work. And if I want something, I'm not going to rely on anyone else to get that for me.
So that actually relates to the education at home then?
Yes, yes, of course. I do think it is up to the parents. Obviously, I'm not telling parents to force their views onto their children, but I do believe it is important to make sure that your children are being raised to work for what they want and what they need. Expecting help from anybody is never a good way to kind of live your life. And that could be, again, why Gen Z may lean liberal. I have a lot of friends who were gifted their first car and a lot of friends who didn't have to work throughout high school because their parents just gave them everything that they wanted. And that wasn't the case for me. And now I do, like I said earlier, I value hard work, and I think that's why I would lean more towards the Republican Party.
When you register people, do you see like those people maybe who are in the middle, you are able to persuade them?
Yes, yes, of course. So I would say personally, the majority of people I've registered are Gen Zers, so it's their first time voting. So they may not have been in the middle going to the right, but I personally have registered people who were Democrats who wanted to switch to a Republican, or maybe independent who wanted to just commit to the Republican Party. And I think it does have to do with a lot about what's going on now. People are tired about, you know, crime. People are tired about this economy, and that's going to encourage them to just finally commit to the Republican Party and vote that way for once. And I'm not saying you have to agree with everything that Donald Trump stands for or says, but I think it's clear that the current administration isn't doing what is needed to get us back on the right track.
好，朋友们，如果您喜欢这样的实地采访的节目的话，就请点赞、转发，并且呢订阅我的频道，打开小铃铛，这样就不会错过新的节目了。另外呢，干净世界的朋友，请您关注新田面对面的频道。好，今天节目就到这里，我们下次节目再见，拜拜。